Hey, what's up everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Bottom of the deck, we have the Chariot card, which is about forging ahead and victory and success, overcoming some great feats and challenges, but moving ahead victoriously. And I just want to quickly share, I don't even know if this is relevant to the message at hand, obviously, because it hasn't come out yet, but today, I had this very distinct feeling of that time when you first start school, like when summer is over, maybe even the first day, particularly if you are in the Northeast or were back in the day, because now kids start school in like August, but we used to start school in September, right after Labor Day. And there was just a very distinct feeling in the air and in the atmosphere, like that crisp fall air. It could be attributed to the fact that today's a little gloomy and cooler, on the cooler side of a summer day than we've been having lately. But it wasn't just that. I know it wasn't just that, but that may have incited or at least supported the feeling of that time when you're shifting seasons and it's like summer is over, school has started, and that air is like really crisp and cool, and it wasn't even just the sensation in the air, but it was like even the smell, you know, I could sense. And again, it could be very significant for me personally, or it could be significant to this area, because again, most people around the nation start school in like August nowadays, or if you're in a place that's particularly warm, maybe you don't have that distinct feeling, but there's some shifting and transition that I feel it may be connected to that sensation that I felt today. And when I say it was distinct, it was distinct. Like I felt like I was in my childhood home getting ready for school, and you know, all over again. It was weird. So maybe we are, you know, with that comes, you know, the matriculation into some newer level, a new grade level, a new experience of learning, you know, and elevation and education. So perhaps that is the synergy. Not sure, but we'll see where the message goes. Chariot card here underneath the deck. I'm just learning to be obedient, to just share my sensations as I feel them and have them, and the way things come up and channel for me, because something that could be insignificant to me or for me may mean something to you. So receive it as you will. All right, so we have here, all right, we got the 10 of Wands. Ooh, 10-10 on the front end and the back end. That's interesting. And then the Ace of Swords, the Magician, and the 10 of Swords. What's this about? We got two endings very distinctly. A very major new beginning or new awakening, I would say, with the Ace of Swords card is divine clarity and truth being revealed in some way. And then we got the Magician card. I sense the end. Oh yeah. And then we got this another kind of like laying to rest or ending of swords in a sense, with the Four of Swords on the bottom. I sense that there's an end of some struggle, some tumultuous cycle with the 10 of Wands. This guy is carrying burdens that he more or less volunteers to carry, or he assumes on his own, in a sense. Usually the 10 of Swords is more superimposed, you know, some external influence or impact that has come to an end, no doubt, with 10, but has caused some great, that's caused some great damage. Damn. So I'm seeing this this is the magician. Wow. I'm seeing this Ace of Swords. All these energies are connected to this magician here, I feel. This Ace of Swords is the revelation of some cycle of burden that he carried on his back, you know, by his own admission. Nobody asked him to, you know, decisions and choices that were made, choices of action with the Ten of Wands card here. The Ace of Swords, again, is, like I said, like a revelation of some clarity or truth, a revealing of sorts, but it's from an ethereal essence. So it's not something that, well, it's an ethereal origin that is expressed in an earthly way. So, you know, like God revealing something, but it's something that it can be seen, of course, from a human perspective, you know, but it's like one of those revelations where it's like it could have only happened through a universal source. Like only God could have revealed this truth in the time and in which it was revealed and the way in which it was revealed for all to see, for some purpose of clarity and consciousness that's important for balance when the divine is stepping in. But it could have only come from, you know, like that nature. And it could only stick, is what I'm hearing, from that source. You know, maybe, for instance, like you could have people talking about a thing, you know, or there'd be speculation about a thing or a person or place or whatever, but it could just be hearsay, or it could be gossip or rumor. And, you know, like when you hear things and you don't really know if it's true or not, but it's like the revelation that the spirit, the divine brings, is no room for question, no room for consideration, error. It's like, oh shoot, like this is the truth, you know. And I've never really read that card like that, so that's interesting right now. And so the magician, you know, in this sense, I feel that it's been energy that, again, since he's being laid to rest here in this Four of Swords, these plans of action, you know, the things that he was manifesting ultimately in this Ten of Wands are what are being revealed. You know, his I hear manipulations, his trickeries, his sleight of hand, you know, whatever his brand of magic was, that, again, he took on in his own regard, is being revealed in some way, shape, or form, and it's causing a great ending. It's bringing that energy to an end, and it's causing a great ending in his effort. You know, maybe perhaps he, you know, with the Ten of Swords, it definitely implies a deception. So maybe he deceived himself, or maybe was deceived in the flow of this energetic force that he was moving in. But it's all being revealed one way or another. And then the Four of Swords here is that laying to rest. It's like the Ten of Wands, the Ten of Swords, as we say in tarot, which I don't know why we say this. I don't even subscribe to it fully, but everything is fine. Now, the 10 is the ending, you know, the total ending of a cycle. So perhaps the worst of it is over, and so everything is fine. Now it's just a matter of rest and rejuvenation and some relenting to this battle. You know, it can also imply mental exhaustion, you know, and from the looks of this, carrying too much, maybe doing too much, there being some exposure of, you know, some type of something, I don't even know, we'll get into it, and then it ultimately causing some demise, whether it was self-imposed or otherwise, that would bring a person to their knees, right? More or less, he's literally in praying hands. And I always read the Four of Swords card, it could be one way or another, you know, someone that's literally relenting to the rest and the rejuvenation and laying his resting on the sword of truth and allowing some healing to take place from this Three of Swords, that heartbreak energy that has incurred one way or another, and allowing the spirit to be revived and regenerated, in a sense, from this great defeat and some, you know, some very tough cycle in two ways. It's like clearly self-imposed, but also externally imposed as well. So this is that, or it could be that the circumstances are so that it forces one to take a rest, even if they don't necessarily want to. You know, like when you, if you come up from a Ten of Swords, one would think you might need to take a seat, you know, catch your breath and recoup, perhaps. You know, so we'll see what comes up after these 4 cards as to what direction we're heading in with this energy. Let's see. Oh, and here's that Three of Swords. Wow. I'm gonna put it up top. The Three of Swords. It's been overwhelming, this experience. 5 of Pentacles. Wow. That's feeling left out in the cold, being in some scarcity or impoverished mentality in spirit and in truth, most likely. And on account of this heartbreak, like this was a great betrayal of some sort, perhaps by individuals that usually when you think about it, a heartbreak usually comes from someone that is close enough for you to care about. You know, you rarely feel the impact of someone that is not in some direct connection or proximity to your energy. So this is what I thought, which is some great betrayal that was incurred. And still, I say on account of the actions taken, because there's some exposure of some activity, you know, that a lot of activity, as a matter of fact, with the Ten of Wands, a lot of energy and power and force that was assumed, you know, and maybe even consumed. When I'm thinking about the Ten of Wands, he's carrying those wands, whether or not they belong. That is the point, actually, of the Ten of Wands, that it doesn't necessarily even belong to you, but you assume that energy and that burden. And so there was some manipulation of energy in one way or another, maybe even manipulation of truth, and which caused some deception, great deception again with the Ten of Wands, and led to some dynamic heartbreak. But ultimately, it still implies to me that the magician incurred the greatest heartbreak and deception on account of this vibration. You know, this is ultimately where it led to the 5 of Pentacles, literally being on the outside of safety and sanctity, feeling depleted, you know, feeling lost, cold. Wow. Yeah, and this is the work. Queen of Swords. I feel like the Queen of Swords in this case is the counterpart in that 5 of Pentacles. Because if you notice, there are 2 people in that card, a man and a woman, and that's the heartbreak. She has the sword. Damn, that's crazy. So what's the 8 of Pentacles? I'm gonna put her up here. Wow. This is the source of, or the force of, in some way, shape, or form, the heartbreak. I hope you can see up there. I think you can on the edge. And this is the work that I sense they were a collaborative force on. You know, the Queen of Swords can almost be the divorcee. If the King of Swords comes out here, then I know it's real. You know, or if he pops up, then I know that that's for sure the counterpart. We're talking about counterpart energy, but there was the Queen of Swords in her own energy is kind of like she was in union and now she's not. Like, she could be the counterpart of the King of Swords, and that usually implies that there was some separation or some odds that they are experiencing or opposed in as to what may have caused the separation indefinitely. So here's the work, and here they are. This is like the Five of Pentacles. This is wow. This is like the Five of Pentacles energy. This is the Six of Pentacles. What's next? And it's like they're both in this position. They're out of the cold, or maybe they still are, I don't know, but this car is a little heated up, right? But they're in this position of almost begging, like needing help and assistance. Wow. Need and balance, literally seeking balance and refuge and resource with the Six of Pentacles. Going from the Eight, which is hard at work, some diligent work, to now being in need. All right, let's see what else we got. Where are we going with this? Devil tried to flip over. I'm gonna take those. Oh yeah, it's only 3. All right, so we got, yeah, this is the defeat here. 5 of Swords on account of some diabolical intentions. This is the surge of energy that changed the fate of it all. And caused the imbalance, caused the juggling, caused the, what is this card usually? It's like, there's a word I'm looking for. I can't find it right now. When it's, you know, when you're just not, you don't have enough, you know. In this case, given all this energy, it's like very much so a struggle. Struggle to revive energy, to balance actual material wealth or resources, you know. And here's the Lover's card, which implies that there was some imbalance of personal choice. Simply put, he didn't choose himself in the highest vibration, and so he didn't choose wisely who to partner with. He didn't make the highest vibration of choices, and that poor perception and projection is what ultimately led to the heartbreak. You know, that's one of the reasons why I've been so adamant about partnerships and commitment in every way, shape, and form, because this obviously was a partnership that was materially driven. It wasn't just about love. As a matter of fact, there are no cups except for the Magician's cup on the board, and that's just what he used to manipulate elements and situations. It's not even like, in this vibration, it can't even really be counted as love or emotion. It's just swords, wands, and pentacles. You know, a lot of action and mental focus on money, ultimately. And that being the central focus, the hard work that was invested in material gain and expansion ultimately was the demise and downfall of the two, if not just the one, for sure, you know, given he's under here and also a masculine energy. Or maybe they were both trying to like one up, because that's what the Five of Swords card is, like really trying to win at all costs, like each one trying to one up the other, or trying to come out on top, or, you know, just willing to risk it all for the sake of the win, no matter what the casualties. Almost always that energy is self-defeated. It doesn't really even take, because even though he might think he left two people for dead or left them in the dust, ultimately what you had to sacrifice to gain that win or that accomplishment was worth more than the win itself. You know, you ultimately sacrificed yourself to do it. And when you got this Lover's card here, to me, it's just speaking of the juggling. There was a choice that was made here, but it was made in poor form. You know, that he had a choice as to how he could, you know, he could have been the magician in the high vibration. You know, literally making magic and manifesting with all of his resources for some productive and prosperous cause. And then that would have justified his life's work. And it would have eliminated these lower vibrational energies, because when you're working in a spiritual calling and answering to your higher self, there's certain things you just won't do. There's certain burdens that you just won't bear. There's certain lines that just won't be crossed. There's certain energies that cannot connect to you when you're vibrating on a certain level. You know, there's just certain ways that certain spaces and places the spirit won't allow you to go. Your spirit won't allow you to go when you're choosing your highest vibration. And only things that are aligned with that vibration and that frequency can magnetize to you. But because there was some juggle here, it's like maybe he was trying to play both sides, you know, trying to be the good guy and the bad guy. You know, the bad guy was prosperous in a sense, you know, or at least profitable. Maybe not prosperous, because that's more long lasting, but there was some profit to gain in being the bad guy. But the good guy, you know, maybe it was a little, that return was weighted a little lower on the scale. It's like, well, I don't really get the money I'm looking for when I'm, you know, that whole nice guy finished last mentality, which is so false. You know, I mean, it's more like slow and steady wins the race, you know, than it is nice guy finished last. And that guy that's okay with slow money on account of his integrity usually has much more to show for it at the end of the race, you know, at the end of the cycle, as opposed to here and here, where you picked up way more burden than was necessary for you to carry. You did way too much to maintain this pursuit of wealth, and you lost a lot, even yourself, in the process. You know, heartbreak, this is something that is needing to be healed from. And in this case, you know, it seems like there's still some blockage with her. I know I put her here, but I was guided to, like, there's still some stronghold in a sense. You know, even here, the newest card with this imbalance and still trying to juggle this idea of literally juggling what you have left materially, but also trying to juggle this energetic force of, what should I do? Do I continue on the path that I know has gained me some return, or do I start something new? And again, there's still a difference, a disparity in the level of these vibrations. But the spirit all along is always going to call you to your highest self. It's just a matter of, will you answer? Will you answer? Let's see what else. Yeah. And this is that the supreme power force, which is what one would truly be after. You know, this would be, it's like all of this was done on account of having this, like this supreme power and creativity and force and passion, excuse me. And, you know, like the wand, this is like, you know, the most supreme essence of the magician, you know, the magician's wand, but it's the one that is a derivative of the divine. You know, it's not manipulated from a carnal perspective. It's not manifested in the natural, you know, like somebody putting themselves in a position of power or authority by some of the ways that have been expressed here, you know, almost assuming a power that's not ordained to them. This is when you're walking in the favor, is what I hear, of what you're ordained to do creatively, what you're ordained to create, how you're ordained to be as a creator from a very pure and ethereal ordination. You know, this is literally God giving you certain gifts and talents, and you being so so affirmed in those vibrations that you have the ultimate confidence in it, and therefore it does manifest magnificently and in a multiplied essence. Like I was saying, it's like beyond, it's undeniable, you know, this type of power, as this type of truth is, this type of integrity and honor, this type of power and creativity. It's unmatched. It doesn't need to compete because it doesn't compare to anything else when it comes from a divine space. When we a lot of times this energy comes up when we decide that what we have isn't enough, and we're not enough, first and foremost. But then when we look at our resources and our gifts and our talents, and, you know, what the lot of life that's been given to us to work with, and then we look around, no doubt, and say, and make that comparison here with the Two of Pentacles, like, well, I would be great if I had that, or this person looks like they're doing great with that. And that's what these two energies together are giving me, like comparing and contrasting your dynamic force with someone else's in a way that you see yourself as lacking something. You don't have enough in the Two of Pentacles. You're always looking to fill some void, you know, of creativity, because you don't have a reverence and appreciation and a gratitude for what you've been given innately and organically. That's what gets us into these like cycles of trouble within, you know, by our own doing, because again, with the correlation here with the Ten of Wands and here, doing too much to prove yourself and to present yourself as some powerful force, or even to obtain power from other sources, when one wand was sufficient for the magician. All he has is one wand on his table in the upright. He doesn't need anything more than what God has given him, what's been ordained by the universe, you know. So that's where the trouble really set in not having an appreciation for and a confidence in your own power and creativity enough to just let that be it, you know, let that lead the way. And whatever material gain, it's like there was an impatience happening here where it's like, oh, it's not happening fast enough, or I'm not powerful enough, or I'm not popular enough or rich enough. You know, there was just this impatience with the evolution of the spirit, you know, to matriculate naturally, you know, like almost like skipping grades, or trying to, you know, skip grades. And yet, you know, you may be smart enough to do that. I remember when I was younger and I had kind of tested out of, you know, the foundational levels of school, and they wanted to pretty much skip me ahead. And thankfully, I'm grateful that my parents did not allow them to do that, to allow me to develop in the time that was natural and organic. It's just because you have the mind and the intelligence to move forward doesn't necessarily mean that your spirit is matured to meet that level of wisdom. You know, like you're going to be lacking some wisdom for lack of experience by moving ahead before it's ordained for you to. So that's the energy I'm getting here. There was like this craving for this ultimate power when the spirit was creating the training ground. It was like school was in session to be able to actually handle this power. And if the curriculum would have been followed according to divine order, you know, and that syllabus of spirit would have been, you know, truly fulfilled in the manner in which it was meant to be, this would have been the ultimate goal, you know. But when he tried to skip grades and get 10 steps ahead of himself or of others, more or less even, he actually failed ultimately with the 10 of Swords, because it was too much power to handle. It's like when you have all this force and you're in the palm of your hands, and with that comes so much temptation. You know what I mean? Like, it's so much temptation to have the power of all at your fingertips, not because it was given to you, but because you just went and took it. You know, like going from 8th grade to 11th, and all these kids are now dating and they're just talking, they're having a different experience of life than you are, because you're still in the 8th grade mentality, more or less. You've missed some levels of experience that would have helped your spirit to evolve to that level of understanding. So you might mess around and be caught up in, you know, in the worst case scenario, this is kind of weird, but in a relationship with somebody too old for you, or just too advanced for you, doing things that are not in alignment with your level of understanding, and, you know, just and then that could make you vulnerable to certain things that are a detriment to your health and to your wellness in a mental essence, and also spiritually, and definitely physically, to make it a very, like I said, a very weird example, but in correlation to the feelings that I was having earlier, it kind of makes a little bit of sense about this school feeling of moving forward ahead, and it's a new year and new spirit of knowledge on the horizon. Like, that's what this energy is giving me. He wanted it all at once, and he got it. But with that came all the temptation that he just couldn't really manage. You know, all that power at your fingertips, but your spirit wasn't ready to operate in the integrity of it. You didn't have the intel, you didn't have the experience yet to know that there were certain roads that even if you could go, even if it was available to you, that it wouldn't be for your highest good or for anyone's good in this case, because with you being a magician and the 10 of Swords, what good is that to anyone in that state? You know, what can you manifest when you're laying flat on your face now? So there's something left to be desired, not just for you, but for those that you would have served otherwise. And oh my God, I'm doing all this talking. This is a higher learning card. That is wild. This is a higher learning card. Well, it can be that with the 3 of Pentacles. It's about being elevated as some expert in knowledge, but higher learning, like literally higher education, perhaps. This is exactly what I was talking about. And this collaborative effort, what it also gives to me in a lower vibration is people working together in some dark, undercover plot or plan, which again is contributed to the connections and commitments that were made that ultimately were, and that's crazy that we're out of alignment. Like I was saying, you going up to the 11th grade and everybody's talking about boyfriend, girlfriend stuff, maybe even starting to explore intimately in ways that you're not prepared for. You know, they're having different levels of conversation, and you're out of place because that's not the level of maturity that you are divinely on, you know, that you are organically in. And that's the expression here that I was just talking about, you know. So he was out of his league, ultimately, is what I'm hearing. You know, he was definitely out of his league and out of his element. And it was so tempting to be a part of whatever this relationship or collaboration was, this agenda, you know. To be a part of it was a great stroke to the ego, ultimately. Like, it made him feel good to be in this collaboration or a part of this, you know, like, consider, like I was saying, 8th grade to 11th grade, you know, to be a part of the cool kids is what I hear. Literally, to be a part of this cool kid gang or clique or whatever, literally clique with this underground situation going on here. But ultimately, they were into some things that were just not a match for his vibration, that he was not prepared to resist or prepared to manage divinely. You know, there was too much temptation for prosperity and the reward that it would return to actually turn away, which is why he shouldn't have been there in the first place. Because if he hadn't inserted himself in that space and time and in that environment, he wouldn't have had to be in resistance, you know. But because he did, and the temptation just lured him in, literally, with the Ace of Wands, that's almost a temptation card, and it became too much. The 10 of Wands, it overpowered his intentions, and he became, you know, overtaken by the energetic force from a mental perspective more than anything, you know, and defeated ultimately as well. And here's the overpowering them even more, the 8 of Swords here, where it's just like too fast and furious. You can't even keep up with the energy and the communication and the action that is coming through. You couldn't manage it. He couldn't manage it. And this is ultimately what he was after and what he was destined to obtain, but in divine timing, you know. This is so interesting. Let's see. And the Queen of Swords is a cold-hearted bitch, like, especially next to the 3 of Swords. Shit, like, he wasn't even ready for that sword. Wow. That's like a mean girl, ultimately. And here's this again. What would have been the choice to make? You know, this would have been the higher vibrational choice. But it was like he was a fool amongst men, you know, and not really, you know, in a sense, but in the comparison of it all, for what I'm talking about, he was like you know, he was like, he wasn't on that level, you know. He was just starting his journey to self-discovery, and it would have been a divine one if he had maintained it in the integrity of faith and not in the foolishness of faith, like literally being blindly led, like so glamored by the possibilities that he didn't even notice he was about to walk off a cliff. And it's like, oh, the signs and signals were warning him. This dog is like, Earth, stop. Literally, the dog is trying to warn your ass to stop walking. That's signifying like nature and synchronicities and signs and signals all around. But he's just so intrigued by the journey, you know, and this glamoring of the Lover's card. I feel that why I was talking about the Queen of Swords and the way that I was is because there was some illusion of this that was presented to him. That's what he was after, ultimately, was this lover's vibration. But under the 5 of Swords, it wasn't what it was in the Moon card. It wasn't what it was presented to be. There was something underlining that was unseen, that was a detriment, that just wasn't it. You know, like I said, even now, how I was given that example of, you know, being in the 11th grade and people are dating, and you know, he's like a little kid compared to these guys, you know, but he wants to be a part. He wants to be he wants to be down with the clique, you know, but not knowing that the vibrations that the clique is on is going to get you in trouble. You're not even knowing the type of level of energy that lies beneath the surface of this in the lowest vibration. It's like, it looks like something. The moonlight can reflect images that are distorted, you know, so he was glamored by the possibility of such a powerful force with the Lover's card, like the possibility of that power of being in like a power couple dynamic. But she was actually the Queen of Swords, a heartbreaker, you know, or at least for as far as his energy is concerned, it wasn't a match, it wasn't aligned. So it was just an idolized identity and possibility, but he wasn't experienced enough to realize that, to, you know, to find his way to maintain a level of truth that would have more or less protected him and kept him from being deceived, or ultimately for his own demise and destruction. All right, let's see here. All right, let's wrap this up, because I'm just here for the tea at this point. Like, what? That's crazy. But I don't really want this to be too long on account of this energy. It's too many. All right, let's give me a couple cards, Spirit. Ooh. Yeah, and here's the Queen of Cups, who is a lover, and it's like he's walking away from that energy. You know, this is a block, and there's the King of Swords. I knew he was going to find his way out. And, you know, where he once would have had access to that, you know, to love in the more pure sense of its form, those roads are kind of like blocked right now because he's got too much else to clean up, you know. And here's the Chariot card. Oh wow, and there's a Tower. Yeah, and Justice. What's that? And the King of Cups. Wow, he's all the way buried up under Justice. That's exactly what I mean. Like, he would want to be showing up in the highest vibration of love now and put this sword down, not for the sake of laying down the sword of truth, but that coldness, that detached spirit, you know, that energy that's now being expressed here. It's like, if he would have, this is what this energy is telling me, like he had the opportunity to be in a true loving partnership, the lovers in the highest vibration, to be in connection with a lover who is such in the Queen of Cups vibration. She's the most loving, compassionate queen of them all. And he moved away from that for the, you know, look at this card. It's like fire and the snake and the angel and the sun, you know, it's like so much going on in this card, you know, that seemed like to be the more prosperous and promising, you know, it was just a more tempting projection of partnership, you know, where he could ultimately saturate himself in something that was unknown to him, you know, and that was satisfying in the most sensational way, and that also didn't ultimately call him to answer to the highest vibration of himself. You know, it's like it had all the bells and whistles of that, but ultimately he could still operate in this Five of Swords energy and work in that capacity and still gain a return. Almost like having the best of both worlds, being a little bit bad, doing a little bit good, you know, like that was the glimmer here going towards the Lover's card as it was, but he had the opportunity to have it in the purest form, but he didn't want that because that would have been too much work, too much effort. You know, it would have taken too much time also is what I hear. Two of Pentacles, it would have taken too much time and energy to invest to get to a place. Like, remember what I said, like he wanted it fast, now, like I want it all and I want it now type of thing. And he got it. He got what he was looking for, but at a great cost to what would have been more sustainable, would have allowed him to even operate in his true integrity, to move forward in victory and success, you know, to really be, to have overcome, to come out on the other side of this experience a victor, you know, instead of being a victim ultimately. He would have had that opportunity if he would have stayed in the vibration truly in the highest form of being a lover and not a fighter. You know, so wow, because this is like a warrior card, but like I said, this implies victory after some great feat or, you know, some struggle or resistance that you've overcome. And perhaps in a sense, there still has been an overcoming, you know, especially if he still has breath in his body to be anything, let alone the King of Swords. But there's so much more damage control, so much more collateral damage, I should say, from unto himself and unto others that has had to happen on account of just one mismanagement of energy, one misguided decision, you know, one manipulation too many, perhaps, you know, is what ultimately has brought the house down and caused the demise, in the sense that now there has to be a rebuilding. There gets to be a rebuilding of sorts. Let's see what's on the top. Yeah, rebuilding. Going from the 8 of Pentacles to the 2 to the 1, literally. And realize, I like to draw attention to when I said about the cups, that the only cup is the one with the Queen of Cups, who he walked away from, who he resisted and went towards something that was more, you know, more tantalizing, you know, more tempting, more or less. That's the only cup, the only emotion, the only love on the deck is what he had ultimately walked away from. And now she got the swords up and she's like, I'm good. See you next lifetime, buddy, perhaps, if that, you know, at this point, because I don't even think a lot of energies now, because this is not an uncommon story, you know, like this is actually what happened with a lot of divine feminines and masculines in particular, where there was a great choice to be made as to how you wanted to invest your energy. You know, I heard one reader say, which I like, it was like the masculine was tested with having it all and the feminine was tested with having nothing. You know, like that was the true test of the masculine and feminine. He had all the access to power and authority and creativity in the world. And the test was, what will you do with it? Would you stay in integrity? Could you remain balanced with all of that power? And the feminine was more or less stripped to nothing, you know, had nothing but her love, her own, you know, she had to go inward in a lot of ways, because in every way, shape, and form, intimately and universally, feminines have been, you know, their energetic force has been depressed and depleted and diminished, you know, literally monopolized and manipulated for the greater force, in particular, the greater masculine force to manifest with and from. Whereas all she had was the cup that she came with, you know, and literally put her in a position to barely know how to make a logical decision or choice forward for her own stability and her, you know, her own well-being, because what she had to offer was diminished by who she had to offer it to, you know, the counterpart of her own, you know, and again, in every way, shape, and form. So that was the test and trial for both. And it's like some feminines, I'm sure, didn't pass that test either. We just not talking about her right now. You know, there were some feminines that had nothing and were willing to do a lot for a little in return, or sacrifice themselves. Consider the way, you know, women have allowed themselves to be objectified for some financial return. And I'm not, you know, judging anyone, but I'm just saying that these are the ways that we have been incited to turn to create our own stability, you know, the OnlyFans in particular, and you know, intimate work exchanges, for lack of a more derogatory term, you know, and even just pimping ourselves out for security, not even in as diabolical ways as actually being a sex worker, you know, and in the lowest vibration, because I'm not judging anyone. I'm just saying, like, when that's something that you don't desire to do, but you're doing it because you feel like you have to, you know, for those that thrive in that field, God bless you. Do what you do, honey. Make the money. Don't let the money make you. Stripping to that point, you know, not really wanting to do that, but it's like, well, what else can I do? I got this body. I got this cup. I got this allure. I ought to use that for my stability, or using it in relationships and connections to gain some type of exchange from the man that they're with or submitting to. You know, maybe not necessarily being a sex worker, but almost in a sense, damn near pimping yourself out in your relationship or relationships just for the satisfaction of security and stability and so-called protection alone. You know, we've all had the test, masculine and feminine alike. So what a masculine would do with all the power and energy in the world, and what a feminine would do with nothing, you know, to show for the true and valuable essence of her in the material way, and how she would look deeper into herself and find it, you know, and decide on her own what the value of it truly is, not letting anything, literally blocking anything from outside of her from dictating that or making that determination, setting that price on her P, if you get what I'm saying. That's what the Queen of Cups did in this sense. She went in when it wasn't popular to go in, when she could have pimped herself out or done something strange for some change. She decided that she wasn't going to take that route. She'd rather have no idea how to move forward or no resource in sight, you know, for stability and security and protection, than to ultimately sell her soul and her sacred essence for pennies on the dollar. You know, that was the test that she passed and matriculated successfully. Now the masculine, he unfortunately may have gotten left back on this go round. Not to make light of it, but you know, the Knight of Pentacles is a little bit too little too late. You know, he may have finally gotten it a little bit. He moved up in some regard. He's not just a regular dude working on his Eight of Pentacles. He's not necessarily, you know, a fool walking around with no idea of what he's walking into, but he's definitely not the magician, you know, with the power of all the elements at his fingertips. Now all he has is one pentacle, and that's a deflection from the two where he was struggling. The difference is now that perhaps he has come to some sensibility about the fact that one is better than none, and one is better than losing your soul for the return of the world. You know what I mean? For the return of many. You know, that maybe there's some idealization of true value now, truly, hopefully, but it still has come at some great cost. And now, as I said, you done got left back from the magician status to Knight of Pentacles. So the investment that you have to make to kind of move ahead again, it's not impossible, but it's definitely going to take some work and some effort now, you know, as opposed to it ultimately being handed to you organically before and you ultimately being on your way to it, you know, you know, in the long run, and literally in the long run. Now you may have to repeat a grade or so. That's all, you know. But some of the greatest have done that. So it's like I said, there's hope. Some of the greatest didn't even graduate high school, you know. So in my view, there's always hope. If there is the will, there is the way. And as a King of Swords innately, the will is certainly there. You know, the will is available. It's possible. There just has to be, let's put them over here. There just has to be a determination in the same way that there was for that diabolical diploma of sorts. I'm having a hard time knowing where to put this guy. You know, let's just put his ass down here. The same way that there was a determination for that diploma in a diabolical state, the divine diploma is just as attainable with just a little bit more focus and fortitude. Okay, all right, until next time, peace.